We have a session, this particular session is also going to be joined by an online participant, but I want to first introduce you to your moderator, Mr. Carl Martineau. He is the Chief Information and Privacy Officer from Canadian Wildlife Federation. Welcome, Carl. And then we actually have online Mr. Ahmed Shalabi, who is the Director of the Pension Program Performance Service Canada. So this is going to be a little bit intimate conversation between the two of them with all of you. Of course, they're going to go through a series of questions as we did a little bit earlier in the session that I moderated, and that we will break just a few minutes earlier to open the floor up for questions from you all. Cal, go ahead.
Thank you, Kayla. And again, welcome everyone this afternoon. It's really an honor to be here to help facilitate this great discussion. And I want to thank Ahmed, who I just met last evening, and we had some good conversations earlier just before the call. Again, from today's meeting, I want to echo in terms of my background, having been a CIO for over 15 years, notably at Legal Aid Ontario for a good part of 12 years, and the current 3 years at Canadian Wildlife Federation. Not only do I deal with technology, but I deal with privacy, I deal with data, and everything that we're hearing today on customer experience really deals with the whole part of data across organizations. And one of the things that I know with Ahmad from EDSC Canada is they're one of the largest organizations. They are the largest public sector organization, and the amount of data that he must deal with every day is really profound. When you look at everything when it comes to AI, the stuff that we've learned earlier today, a lot of that stuff that's happening, data is really an important part of that story. And I know with IT departments, from what I've seen and experienced, is that the whole aspect of data is really around how do you ensure that not only are you innovating, like we heard earlier, fail fast, but at the same time, you want to make sure that your security, general counsel, your organizations are doing it in a diligent way. So welcome, Ahmed. Ahmed, just as an icebreaker, just thought I'd ask you this question, that is, with data proliferation being one of the biggest challenges many government organizations face today, especially when trying to create seamless citizen experiences, from your perspective, one of the biggest hurdles organizations are dealing with regards to silos.
Thank you, Carl, and happy to be here. Just a bit of correction. I am now Executive Director for Enterprise Information Management. Okay, it's coming on screen now. Okay, so to answer the question, well, there are many challenges that we're facing, but briefly, in the government, at least in ESDC, we have systems that were built to process benefits, not to interconnect data. So one of the challenges we have is we have legacy systems and infrastructure, which becomes very outdated quickly. It makes it really difficult to partner data and match data so that we can provide better services and what have you. This is legacy. We'll talk about what's coming in the future. Also, we didn't have, I should say, a unified data strategy, right? That's also an issue because imagine a department of 44,000 employees plus, each team is working in their own data realm and not thinking about, okay, what does this mean for the next team just beside me? I don't want to delve a lot into details, but one more thing I'm going to mention is, cultural resistance. So because with employees may resist, the way that they do things, sticking to the traditional workflows and failing to adopt an integrated data solution. So this is, how I would like to start off things.
Thanks so much. When you look at organizations within, you have different departments, and sometimes I'd imagine you're trying to understand what the requirements are in relation to their data needs. But then one of the challenges really is that when you have so many different data types and organizations, sometimes naturally silos will evolve. From your perspective, Ahmad, what are the most common reasons that data remains disconnected, and what are the consequences when it comes to building out modern CX experiences because of that aspect of silos and disconnected data?
Yeah, I touched a bit on it in my previous answer, but I would say one of the biggest challenges is the organizational silos. So within ESDC, we have multiple branches. Each one of them is working on their own. They have their own goals, which kind of leads to fragmented data storage and usage, which is an issue. Technically, ESDC, we know we have data on citizens from birth to death. So we issue social insurance numbers. Let's say they go through, they borrow money for their school, then we issue them, a student loan. They go on EI, employment insurance information, and then all the way to retirement, and we administrate, Canada pension plan and all the security. So technically, we should be having enough data points on a specific individual to be able to serve them better and provide services. However, because we have dispersed teams not working together, and again, that was like 10 years ago. Things are much better now, I would say. There's a huge push to have one, tell us once. If you want to change your address, you don't have to change it 5 times, and you kind of continue where you left off in terms of your journey with ESDC. So I think one of the key challenges I would like to stress on is just the silos we have. We continue to have some silos, but I think different data sets and data points that are coming together to better provide a better customer experience.
Thank you, Ahmad. Going further in terms of when you're explaining that aspect of the data, in terms of how you resolve the silos, and with regards to bringing together cross-functional data, unlocking new efficiencies, how would you, can you share an example for us here where you're seeing it, where taking integrated, disparate information and then bringing it together to drive real impact for citizens?
Absolutely. And so this is not my current job. My previous job, I was working in BDM, which is, Canada's largest modernization program, where the idea was to take all the legacy systems for our key programs, employment insurance, Canada pension plan, and old age security, and put them in one platform. The idea is, again, just to build on the point I mentioned, if you have enough data points and information on our clients, citizens, can't we offer them services that they're not even aware that they would qualify for? And that automatically enhances their experience. With that, that platform now sits in a cloud. There is, different technology. It's not, old mainframe COBOL system. So we can technically offer them additional services. For example, you can track your claim, exactly where things are at. That will, avoid long waits in phone lines, waiting to know exactly, okay, I applied for my employment insurance claim. What's the status? Similarly, with pensions. Update your address. Things like we should be doing a few years ago, but now it's coming to reality. And I know that with old age security, it went live, I think, a week or 10 days ago, and things are going well. So I think that at least ESDC, they're advancing really strong in terms of enhancing client experience putting data together.
Thanks, Ahmad, for explaining that. That's incredible in terms of being able to look at that, as you're saying. There's a lot of data out there, and on each citizen, how do you then take that data, coalesce it, and bring meaningful actions to them? And that now we're going to shift the conversation, and this is where we're going, where with customer experience, when we look at artificial intelligence and automation, we know that they're changing the ways that we're looking at how organizations operate. Today, I know I've been hearing a lot of conversations on the customer experience side of things related to contact centers. But when you look holistically across industry, and including government, how do you see AI playing a vital role in breaking down silos and improving decision-making?
So, in ESDC, we do deploy AI models, and we have also RPA, which is robotics process automation. It is more for internal usage, but slowly it's going to be external facing services. If you talk about RPA, it takes care of the redundant tasks for the agents, something they do like 10 times a day or so, doesn't require much judgment. So those tasks are, they're considered part of the big umbrella of AI. Those tasks are done with the agent, hence increases, the agent satisfaction. And I believe it would reflect on dealing with the client, because once you free up the agent from those redundant tasks, they're likely going to focus more on how can they serve the client better. But I would also say that AI and machine learning models, they identify patterns and relationships across databases. So that, it kind of gets rid of that siloed environment. Hence, it improves the data decision making. With AI algorithms, you're going through huge amounts of data in real time, which enables the decision makers to make quick decisions to help the client with the services. Quick example, you can get services with Service Canada via phone, online, or by visiting a Service Canada center. Wouldn't it be nice to just tell the client now, this is the best time and the best mode of obtaining services, instead of calling and waiting 45 minutes or going and standing in line? So putting this data together, putting on top of them some artificial intelligence and machine learning, then automatically you'll be able to predict some, insights, when is the best time to visit or to call, but also provide real-time analysis, so that again the client will have a positive experience with Service Canada. And our aim ultimately is to, we say, did we solve your inquiry from the first contact to first contact resolution? That's something that ESDC has always been talking about, and hopefully we'll get better at it.
Thank you, Ahmad. What's amazing in terms of how you're looking at data with artificial intelligence and the whole part of really orchestrating and really connecting it to the experience, right? So when you talk about the customer, public, the employees in that, sometimes as well, when you look at these changes, I'd imagine for the past, several years perhaps, or even longer, there's always resistance around integrating data, the concerns on, what artificial intelligence is, what it's doing. So in general, when you're integrating data across departments, sometimes you may face resistance, and sometimes it may be related to operational barriers, such as the time it takes. But what advice do you have for leaders today looking to drive a transformation strategically with data across the organization through an integrated strategy?
So, driving, strong data transformation, I believe it requires two things. Good technical solutions, but also a strong focus on culture and operational alignment. So I would start with, and that's maybe it's beyond this conversation, but I would also always start with communicating a clear vision. What's the why? Why are we doing this? Yes, there is a fear of, is this going to replace my job? But we went through a few industrial revolutions, and people, most of them were able to, reskill and what have you. So number one advice is write the why, which means you communicate a very clear vision. And then, the second one, I've seen it many times. You build cross-departmental alliances. And that could be in a form of, champions and what have you, so that they could be your voice. You're not the only one who's pushing, but you have it across at different levels in your area, all the way from senior leadership all the way to the junior analyst, that would lobby and push for adoption and what have you. And we wouldn't want to not address cultural resistance. So it's very important to also, understand why folks are resisting, but, address them and engage them in that process, because, senior management will always have this vision, but numerous times when we went to the front lines, we were able to gather the best solutions and the best ideas for any solution we want to put forward. One more piece I can share is, investing in training and support. People fear what's unknown. I mean, AI is and bringing data together is very well known now, but invest in training and just supporting the your teams in that journey, because it is a journey, it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I'll add one more piece, which is, look for quick wins. Quick wins are always a good thing to demonstrate, to show it's not theoretical, it's working. And that's always good to address and overcome the challenges of resistance.
Thank you, Ahmad. At this point in the conversation, we'll pause for any questions. That way we can just make sure there's sufficient time in that. So just going to pause in case there's any questions for Ahmad from the audience. And we'll just wait for the microphone, because I know for the web
They're always quiet to start. Thank you.
Who has their hand up here?
Right here at the front, please. Thank you.
Hello. I was wondering, what do you find is an effective way to communicate those quick wins? I've worked in some larger companies, and they have things like showcases or playbooks, or is there any, recommendations of how that works well today, since we're moving on to a more digital sort of approach? Like emails get lost in inboxes, so what would be a good way to communicate those to get engagement?
Great question. What worked in the past, at least in my experience, is similar to what you mentioned, showcases. So in TSDC, we have lunch and learns. Grab your lunch and let me show you what this technology or this methodology can demonstrate. That's one way. Another way, I would say, try to get a senior executive champion, if you're not one. They would, and just find time, show true value. And if you're government, you want to attach it to one of the strategic priorities that they have. That will get their attention for sure, and they'll be able to support you in your journey.
Thank you.
Great question. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. So Hamad, going back to, again, when you look at the risk associated with AI and data and transformation projects, one of the themes today at the conference is really around customer experience. And when you look at contact centers, for example, a lot of the themes today, people are talking about in terms of being able to pilot and test these technologies. When it comes to the ultimate factor of risk, how is it that an organization can start to de-risk a pilot when it comes to using a large amount of data and including designing a citizen experience of which you want to deploy it, but you want to make sure it goes through enough rigor that it de-risks the aspect of what you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, the benefits can be far outweighed if there's a security breach or a privacy flaw in the process.
So I worked in environments where, it's waterfall in terms of rollout of the project versus agile. I am a strong believer of agile. So you want to build the minimum viable product, an MVP, and get as many stakeholders as you can in the process. Do it agile, make sure you adjust and adapt, and tackle issues as you go. Yes, there are privacy concerns. Yes, there are, even data security concerns, information management concerns. But it's important to engage early. But I am personally not for, the waterfall methodology, because technology is moving too fast. And if if the ultimate goal is to demonstrate value, then we want to act very quickly.
Same with myself. I believe in the agile approach because waterfall, by the time you get to the end state, you don't know truly what the product is. So that's a great point in terms of how you orchestrate evolving the product through agile principles. On that part, I know, again, in your career, you must have seen a lot of things related to how data can really innovate a business process. One of the challenges that happens, and I always encourage, like I know whenever a technical person is explaining, especially from a data story, from an architecture to business, what are the results we want to achieve, sometimes it's tough to explain when you look at the complexities, especially with machine learning and all the different types of classification, learning models and that. But just from a general sense in what you're seeing, are there any innovations that you're looking at and you're like, wow, these things look very promising in terms of the citizen experience?
I mean, innovation in general, I think Gen AI everyone is talking about Gen AI now. The way that you don't have the advantage of Gen AI, you don't have to be a programmer. I started with government as a programmer. With Gen AI, it's very easy to understand, and its application is vast, really. So I would encourage everyone to get comfortable with this technology, if they're not already. And things don't stop at ChatGPT or Copilot. There is way more technology out there that can make our lives easier. And it's just a matter of taking that technology and finding some use cases to solve a business problem. This is really the art of it, right?
Very wise feedback on that. One of the things to reflect on and build further is, I know when you're explaining with Gen AI, from a data governance perspective, I would imagine as well with the organization, there's the internal loop with the employees and how do you give them Gen AI tools so it allows them to continue to be as productive as they can. And as you mentioned too, there's the vendor community, and it's not just the one design only, there's many different designs. So sort of going back to it then, what are the key things that we can look at when it comes to procuring these type of solution sets, whether it's for the end user community or whether it's for the customer experience community?
Yeah, so for the end user community, I mean, again, I'm going to speak on behalf of my experience at ESDC. So we deal with the specific vendor. It's very large, but it is a specific vendor. So anything we want to work with and procure, we want to make sure that there's interop with the current tenet of managing information, for example, right? It depends on each use case, each one's department. You don't want to reinvent the wheel and go through hurdles of governance and security. Look for what's available to you and build on it after you've achieved some success.
Thank you, Ahmad. And as a final question, again, number one, thank you so much for imparting all this great knowledge to us. But as a final question I have for you is, are you an AI optimist or pessimist?
100% optimist. Except with my high school daughter. Sometimes she uses AI, I think, for her homework. But overall, I think AI is not going to replace us, but it's going to replace folks who cannot deal with AI. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you, Ahmad. Big round of applause for Ahmad.
Thank you for the invite.
And thank you, Carl, for excellent moderation with Ahmad and really engaging. I'm going to pause here and maybe open the floor again for any questions. Yes, there is a thank you. There's a question right here.
Hello?
Oh, there's a question at the back of the room, and then maybe if we could get a mic for the front of the room. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
So based on the scale of your operation as of today, what does it look like at a high level in terms of how do you manage data quality across such a diverse set of business operations across Canada?
That's a good question. Data quality remains one of the key issues because, if you have bad data in means bad data out. There is another terminology for it that I'm sure people know. We don't have an enterprise-wide data quality methodology. We have a data in ESDC with the CDO, Chief Data Office. They have a data strategy, but we are miles away from having proper, governance, even taxonomies of our data. It's in the works. There is advancements with the new system. I'm hopeful that it's going to be unified with the proper rigors, so we have proper data, but it's a lot of work ahead for sure.
Which is a consistent theme from an earlier conversation we had around managing data lakes and data swamps and not being too scared of it and really letting the people build the systems and having a viewpoint that's moderate and progressive, because we can't do everything all at once and it feels very daunting. We have a question here at front.
Hi there, my name is Catherine and I work with an analytics and evidence branch at the Ministry of the Attorney General. On the topic of connecting data, you were referring to the silos. What are some sort of really ground level, like practical tips to succeed in sort of breaking through those silos, or at least maybe more specifically when it comes to legacy systems and individuals that know that knowledge for years and decades? What are some ways that we can look to spreading knowledge transfer, spreading that knowledge out, and integrating things into either a new system or a larger group as we evolve?
I would say we did touch on silos and the challenge with that, but I would say one way to tackle it is to simple as documenting. Right? So you document things. I know that older databases that did not have proper documentation, I'm gonna go in the weeds, record layouts and what have you. That would be the first step. It is one of the biggest challenges if you have a system and data, which is really the new building material for anything you wanna build, very valuable, but you can't understand it and you don't know what it means. So I would start with that. You're gonna have to spend a lot of time with your employees that have this corporate knowledge, and that would be to change management, enabling what they want to do. But my advice is to definitely don't overlook documenting and having this as part of your own assets.
Thank you for the question. And I think you also touch on something else that I took away, which about this concept of cultural resistance, really being aware of where the people are and how much they can kind of help bring you along the way. Any other questions? All right, thank you again, Carl Martineau and Ahmad, for the good conversation. Thank you. Bye.